Welcome back to the Ardent Wife podcast. My name is Dee. I am so excited to be here with you today and share this conversation that I wish somebody would have told me. I feel like there should be like a little wife handbook. And how do you celebrate milestones, vacations, families when two become one? And I'd love to talk about it with my sisters here. I'm here with my sisters, Tiffany and Jennifer. We are the Ardent Wife podcast, and we just talk about things that Christian wives talk about, and we bring Jesus all up in it. And so my question for you guys, because I've been married 20 years, and I feel like a good grasp on the holidays and how we navigate that. But I remember as a newlywed, and we actually had a small child when we were first married, being like, okay, we're going to my house for Thanksgiving because my mom makes the best collard greens, but then we can go to your house for Christmas. And like just trying to figure out all those different things. So is there something that you've figured out that you could help that newlywed wife, or you wish somebody would have told you when you were first married when it comes to celebrating and bringing two families into it?
I would say my mom, she says, because your mom want you to be there with her. Moms just want their babies at home. And so she said, I thought it was going to be so much different. Like, I didn't think I was going to have to share you. And so it's challenging, not just necessarily, for the husband and the wife, but it's a new dynamic for the parents too, right? Because they could be so used to you coming, then they kind of feel like, I'm shaded, or now what am I going to do? Like, you were a big part of this space. And so it's just really compromise all around, and like you were saying earlier, early on, it's kind of like, I just wanted to be with my family. That's just the way it was, and I felt like if I wasn't, I was missing out because my siblings, it's like everybody else was over there, but then I got to go over here. I shouldn't say I have to, but that's how I can feel sometimes when you're in the middle of it. And
I know for us, it's changed with the passing, like both my mom and my dad passed, and Rondi's mom passed this, years ago now. And it definitely has shifted. That is another shift for us. But I do remember, like, Christmas time is still kind of funny. We've been married 20 years coming up in a few weeks, and or next week actually. And and like, even like, I don't like putting all the Christmas presents back under the tree. And I'm like, okay, the next day after Christmas, it's time to clean up. Like, we're putting Christmas is over December 26th. I like it done and cleaned up before the 1st, because you want to go in the new year. I know we are Jesus lovers, but I don't like to go into the new year. I just feel like things should be in their place. And so, those are the small things like that. It's like, he's like, wait a minute, like, why is everything cleaned up? Why is Christmas over? I'm like,
you like,
that is another factor, different traditions, right? Different traditions that you have. I grew up in a Puerto Rican home, so we party on New Year's Eve until midnight, and then the kids get it, to open a gift and and like you have a bunch of family. But my husband grew up with a single mom, and they don't have a very big family, and they didn't do those things. So he's like, wait, we chill. Like, it's so just also putting together different family traditions can be a challenge as well. And it's not one of those things that you discuss when you're before you get married. You don't like, okay, this is what we do in my house and this is what we do in our house. I mean, some people might discuss it, but I know we did it. And so that's a whole dynamic as well.
Yeah, we definitely didn't, I think, those things.
And, Chris and I did, because I told him, like, I'm very big on my family. I love spending time with my family, but I don't think he understood, when you're dating, you don't really understand what that means. It's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I can support that. But then when the rubber meets the road and it's like, okay, where are we going? Then it's like, but I told you this. Like, we talked about this. Do you remember?
It's already established, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And so it's still now, I would say it's still challenging for us because it's like, and we try to alternate, like, hey, if we do Thanksgiving at my mom's, then we'll do Christmas at your mom's. Or we've since said, well, we'll just stay at Christmas at home and we try to
Mhm.
do, but then that makes for a busy December, right?
Yep.
Because you're like,
Yep.
you try to go spend time with both sides, but then you're home on Christmas. And so it's still kind of like you just feel like you're all over the place. And maybe that's just, I don't know, is that just the way it is until the kids are older or until I
So
don't,
it's funny you say that because we always that it was our first Christmas we went and also there's one more factor. Some people's families are close together in proximity. So they
yeah.
can go like we can go to 3 grandma's house 1, grandma's house 2 all in the same day. My
Yeah.
family wasn't that wasn't the case. And when we
Mm,
first got married, we moved 6 hours from our family. So we were by ourselves in Massachusetts. And I remember we drove down and we did Christmas Eve with my parents because we do the Puerto Rican Christmas Eve, and then we did Christmas with my mother-in-law, and just kind of getting all her stuff and like losing all her little pieces. And we came home and one piece is here, one piece is like it was everywhere. And so I decided then that we would do Christmas at our house. And once my parents started visiting our house. There was also another transition with Thanksgiving too. So my mother-in-law, again, small family, we started hosting Thanksgiving at our house too. And so we were bringing it to her house. But even doing that is a whole thing with the different traditions coming into your home and being like, well, we used to do it like this. Why are you guys doing like that?
mhm,
And so and be like, oh well, why are you serving this dish when we serve that dish? And so
mhm.
bringing those together. So I have to say, it's done with a lot of mercy. I don't know about grace, but it's done with a lot of mercy.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about something you said because it's like even like the year we because Reese's birthday is really sometimes it falls on Thanksgiving. And
Mm,
so we would just say, "Hey, we're going to host at our house." But both sets of parents are at the age now where it's like they prefer to be home before dark. So it's
mhm.
like it's like a 2-hour drive max for both. And then it's like, okay, but we have one guest room. And so it's like only one set stayed in the other. It's like, so who gets the room? There's another room, but then it'd be a blow up mattress on the floor. And it's like, I can't put my parents on. And so it's like, okay, well, who's going to get the bedroom? Who's going to get to stay? Who's going to have to drive back? And it's just like all these things.
It's
So
a
it's just like,
lot
we just
putting
need a bigger
together.
house, but there is a lot that go into it. So I tell Chris, I'm always on Zillow.com and I'm like, this would be my perfect house. Like there's 2 in suite. Both sets of parents have their own area. Their little thing is always available, but it's hard. It's challenging because, you know, I'm sure he want his parents here just as much. And I do too. Like I want them both to be
Mhm.
here, not having to choose, but it gets tricky in that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my mother-in-law and my mom are really good friends now. They travel together and stuff like that. So it's becoming easier. And they're older in age, and they don't. All my siblings are out the house. My brother, I have a brother who's 18 years younger than me. So for at one point in time, it was a little bit harder because he was still at home. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's very tricky. And over the years, I just learned I'm not gonna please everybody on
Yeah.
the holiday. I'm doing the best that I possibly can. I truly am. I'm trying to love you both equally and respect both of you equally. But when it comes down to it, someone's going to not be happy, completely happy at the end of the day. And so
Mhm.
um, just knowing that, I think gave me kind of like, okay, I'll put that like I'm not gonna make my mother-in-law happy, or my mom's gonna be a little annoyed, but it is what it is. We did the best
Yeah.
that we could. Um, that has helped over the years as well. And then they kind of I remember at one point in time they'd be like they kind of like months in ahead. So like whose Thanksgiving
Yeah.
are we gonna have? And so it became like a thing after we'd been married for a few years trying to figure it out and navigate. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful too. I have a bunch of siblings to kind of like pass my mom along. And so we kind of cycle. Edward doesn't have that luxury. It's just him and his brother. And his brother has more kids than us as well. So it's much easier for us to travel to them than them to bring 5
Mm,
kids to us. So there's so many dynamics to it, but like, yeah, it's just, I feel like it's just one of those things you just have to kind of just bite the bullet, and this is how it is this year, and give them a really good Christmas gift if they didn't get Christmas this year, you know.
Yeah, we typically, so Thanksgiving was always his mom's. The day after Thanksgiving was my dad and my stepmom.
Mm,
Easter was always kind of my family. Christmas, we did ultimately decide to be at home. And we kind of just established kind of what those
mhm,
routines were. And it's really funny because I think for us culturally, our families are really different. So we'd go
mm,
to like my family's house, and it was like this sit down, very proper kind of meal. And then we go to his house, and it was like this huge buffet, 40 people. You got all the cousins, and it was just, and I loved it. I actually really liked his culture. I enjoyed his culture even more, but I've learned to embrace mine too, and kind
yeah.
of that switching of like going from one to the other.
Mhm.
But we did establish those kind of places, but we're now in a season where now his mom isn't here anymore. And so these past few Thanksgivings have been like, oh, this feels really strange. Like
Mm,
we're further away. Not everybody will come out to us. We would love to host everyone, but we're 2 hours, so it's not, his mom, everyone was in like a 20-30 minute radius from her. Um,
mhm.
and so I think we're in a season now where we're reestablishing like, what does this look
I
like now?
know.
And now, even my older son having a child and them coming here, and so just figuring out kind of what all those pieces are now, and what are we going to establish together. We want to be the place. We want our kids to all come back here. So
Yeah.
I feel that, right? Like I'm like, oh, Isaiah, you should come here. Like, yeah, of course
Yeah.
you're coming here, right? Oh,
Yeah.
wait, you gotta go to her house too, so
Yeah.
I'm on that side of it too. And you do want to just be together as family and establish those things. So there's so many dynamics culturally,
Yeah.
um, as
And I
well.
think, Jen, something you said, you brought up an interesting dynamic in that you step parents. Let's say, it's like if for some reason your parents are no longer together, then that adds another house now you got to go to, because maybe now
Yeah,
your dad is remarried, your mom is remarried. So that's just like, and then not to me, if it's the same way on the other side, that's like 4 families you are trying to please for the holidays. And then once you start having kids, everybody wants to see the grandkids.
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you said it, that you just have to learn you cannot please everybody. And
mhm,
can you make time special? So the day after Thanksgiving is now special. We actually still go to my stepmom the day after Thanksgiving because it's just kind of now what we've done for the past
Mhm.
10 years, and it's just we have our own little tradition around it now. So I think if we can not get caught up maybe so much on the day and pleasing
Yeah.
everyone, but
Mhm.
figuring out how do you make time special with people you love, and knowing it'll be okay.
And but I feel like my mom would be that type. Like, yeah, make all those other days special too, but I want you on the day. She's like, oh yeah, that's great, but on Christmas, I'm
plain.
still gonna need you to be here on Thanksgiving. She's like,
Yeah.
thank you for that, but
Funny you
yeah,
say that. This year, so the girls aren't little. We don't have little Barbie houses and pieces and things like that to put together. They want bigger things. And my family actually, we're the only ones now. They all go to Texas to be at my grandmother's house. And my grandmother has this huge party and everything. And we've always missed it because I've said we do Christmas at home. So we're really considering this year changing, but the different seasons, like, and then I can't imagine when my girls are gone, them not coming home for Thanksgiving and going to their husbands. What? Like that just seems absurd, but you're right. Like we're going to be in that same position. And so, um,
and
yeah.
it's so funny because I have to tell you, what was it? I don't remember if it was. I want to say it was Thanksgiving. I don't know. I don't know. One of the holidays. It was Thanksgiving or Christmas, and Chris was coordinating with my mom. Like, and And Chris, the way he scheduled it, like he will try and do everything in one day. And I always tell Chris, I'm like, Chris, like they all need to have their separate day because I feel like somebody's gonna get shortchanged because you're rushing. You don't get to
Mhm.
sit and really enjoy because you're watching the clock. Okay, I gotta be at this place. And so I told Chris like a few days before, I said, I believe my mom think we're gonna be there all day. And he was like, no, I think I told her. And so we got ready to leave. And so Chris said, I said, no, I think she thinks we're going to be there all day. And so then Chris, we get ready to leave and she was crying. She was crying. I
Oh,
mean, I felt so bad.
the disappointment. Oh,
Yes. And so I'm just,
that's
I
yeah.
felt so bad. So what we ended up doing, so we left, we went to his parents, and then we came back to my mom's house. And then we
Mm.
went back to his parents' house. So
And you're
we ended up getting
exhausted.
back to, I mean, we just went, I was like, okay, we're gonna come back, we're gonna play games, and so we was rushing. And then I was like, Chris, we got he was I was like, we gotta make this right. I'm like, my mama is crying. Like we can't I mean,
Oh,
she was
mama.
crying. I was like, oh my gosh. That's why I know how she is. So now it's like, let's be clear. Let's make sure everybody knows what's going on, what time we're leaving. So, like, everybody knows the plan. So nobody's feelings are hurt.
So practical tools would be um planning. Planning would be huge. It definitely has to be planned and make I love what you said, Jen, about just making the time special because that's what it's really about. It's really about creating memories and just getting together as a family and connecting. And there was like we forget that there was a point in time in history now that we could not connect as a family. Like we had to Zoom, everybody was at home. And so now really making those times and the effort to make those times count and giving people their special days. Um definitely I just know when we took Christmas off the table, and made that boundary, that healthy boundary for as a mom, it just made it much easier for me. Because we know that and it depends on the household, but mostly women coordinate the Christmas fest,
Mhm.
the merry of the Christmas, right? We are the merry makers of the Christmas. And so that was helpful for me. But there's also little things like birthdays and anniversaries and
Mother's Day, Father's Day, like
Yeah.
yeah.
how many of us have been like, "Oh, wait a minute. I want this for Mother's Day. I want that for Mother's Day." And then maybe our husbands didn't know how to really do that well. I don't know. It was definitely went through seasons like that. And now he just says, "What would you like to do?" And I'm like, "I would like a kale salad from Jake's. I'd like to go for a long run, you know." And
Yeah.
then
I want a massage.
he's getting at doing gifts. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think that is important, like the planning, but the communicating, like being able
Yes.
to learn to share what you really need, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, because I think those moments we can put a lot of expectation, and that what is that
Mm.
expectation is a premeditated resentment, and so
Mhm.
we can share like, hey honey, this is really how I'd like to celebrate it, and not, we've talked about this before, not assume that they know or set
Mhm.
Yes.
them up to fail. Like, this is what I feel like I want. This is what I feel like I need. Or I know last Mother's Day was really hard because it was we both had lost our moms. And so I think there was underlying feelings there that neither of us were
Mm.
really in touch with. And so like all those things play a part. And so I like what you said, Dee, about like grace, mercy, right? Like as you walk through different seasons, but I think we could help our husbands if we were just honest and said, this
Mhm.
is what I really would like. This is what I'm hoping for,
Mhm.
and really spell it out. And, you know, they sometimes have to learn those things. Um,
Mhm.
and having the mercy and grace with them to walk along with you and just not be afraid. to share.
Yeah. And I think in saying that too, Jen, it's like, yes, we communicate what we would want, but then also holding that loosely too, because we know that in marriage, like there's going to be compromise because he could very well feel strongly about what he wants to do on that day too, So it's like, um, how do we get on the same sheet of music in this, in that, maybe not both of us come out 100% satisfied. Like, this is what I wanted 100%, but it's like, you know, it's doable, so there's no resentment because sometimes you can grow bitter. You feel like, well, we was over there last week, or we keep going over there and we don't spend. So you start kind of like trying to keep the score. It's like, or when we were here, when we weren't, and how many times they came. And so instead of just saying, this is what I want, this is what I need. Okay, tell me what you want, what you need, and then let's meet in the middle. How can we get, because at the end of the, like, this is going to be the dynamic for all your married life. So you got to find something that works.
50, 60, 70, 80 years, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And like you said, Jen, and when you're together that long, it starts to look different. You start to lose family members. And so it just transitions to another state. So it's just like, and I think that's a reminder too, to embrace it and to spend that time that you can with them, you know, be present in it and really just be grateful for the time that you have, and just recognize, it's not about what we want per se each time, but just seeing them as the gift. And hey, if I get to spend time with you in this, then hey, that's enough for me. Yeah. Because we love our in-laws, right? Like I mean, they become like our parents too. I have great in-laws and they're like my parents too,
But
so
our kids love their grandparents and they
yeah.
want to see them and their aunts and their uncles and their cousins and all
Mhm.
those things like that. We become connected. When two
One.
becomes one. It becomes
Yeah.
one big family. It truly does. But what I'm hearing from you both is just um, planning each other's time and then honoring each other and honoring our families, and respecting our families' time, and then communication in general, like communications between you and your husband, communications between you and your mom and you and your mother-in-law. Like, you really have to, and sometimes communication is hard conversations, like, no, we can't come on Christmas Day, but we totally can be there for Christmas Eve, or we totally can be there the day after Thanksgiving, like whatever the case may be. But all coming from a place of like, we love you, we want to be spend time with you, but there has to be compromise that's made, and relationships are messy, right? And so also putting that in, allowing for that to happen, like allowing the relationships to be messy and being okay with that as well, I think.
Yeah, when you say that, Dee, it's like, don't be surprised when this is an issue in your marriage. Don't be surprised when you realize, oh, wait a minute, but I want this and he wants that, or you are hoping for something on an anniversary or a birthday, or he was sad because you didn't celebrate it the way maybe he was used to celebrating it growing up. But navigating this, don't be surprised, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it is gonna probably not be smooth sailing. That's okay.
Yeah. But you will figure it out. And then as soon as you figure it out, you'll enter a new season, like your kids will leave and you got to figure it out all over again. But that's part of marriage. It's part of like getting through these things together and connecting with each other. And so, yeah, I think, I mean, each marriage is different. So giving practical tools for this, but I feel like just that foundation of just like respect, right?
Yeah.
Communication and honor. And then it just embracing the messy.
Yeah.
Which is I'm all about that. So we love to continue this conversation in the Ardent Wives Club and just learn some tools and tips that maybe seasoned wives have learned over the years that's really helped them navigate the two becoming one unit. And just also I'd love to hear struggles as a newlywed that you might have with some of your marriage, or just topic ideas in general. We're always open to talk about things. And we have a community called the Ardent Wives Club. It's on Facebook. You can check out our description below if you want to join us there and continue the conversation. We also have a newsletter. Love for you to sign up, and you can get information that we're doing, conversations that we're having, recaps on the podcast that we have had before. And yeah, we just want to encourage you in this journey of marriage, because there's no book. There's no book. Well, that's not true. There's a lot of books in the marriage section. But we just want to have this great conversation and just navigate with you and just cry, laugh, and grow closer to Jesus together. And so you can catch us here or in the Ardent Wives Club. Until next time, be blessed.